Q&A. All yours.
Awesome. And you can see currently you can see that that screen that says defining your brand, correct?
Yes.
All right, sweet. So once again, apologize for the tardiness. This is definitely going to be a brief workshop. Of course, we're talking about SEO today, but SEO really comes down to what business are you running and how can you leverage the information within your business in order to set you aside or apart on the search engines, one of the many search engines. So let's jump right into it. So, what are we talking about today? Well, we're going to start with market analysis, which of course is very important when we're talking about keywords, including customer target market, competitive advantage. Next, we're going to talk about basic site setup, keywords and positioning, or what I like to call wireframing, website and blog, social media, community, and then number three is onwards. One thing that I will mention, I know that most of you probably have the AI search on your mind, and we will absolutely cover a little bit of that at the very end. I think that that's definitely an important note to discuss. But what is your target market? It comes down to that, right? When it comes to this, unfortunately, it pays to be prudent, right? You cannot afford to be lazy. Uh, of course, if you look into the age, the gender, the location, I mean, I'm coming from Chatham, Massachusetts. A lot of times, if I'm thinking about location, I'm talking about Cape Cod. But better, let's talk about occupation, right? What's their income level, ethnicity, religion, culture? What do people really focus on primarily? And then finally, psychographics and customer personas. Customer personas are really something that you build over time. And going back to you can't afford to be lazy, you need to put time into building those customer personas. And there's a few different ways to collect this information, asking questions like purchased in the past, right? Purchase timing. When were they purchasing? Were they around a holiday, during the summer, during one of the shoulder seasons? Completely depends. And that definitely applies to the customer persona. Activities within the community. Did they go to events? Did they like farmers markets? Did they go to church? What content do they like? Do they like videos, pictures? Um, there's specific pain points. I mean, you wouldn't have a business if there wasn't a pain point behind it, right? So, is this something that your business provides a solution for? That is definitely a pretty important aspect of your target market. And then finally, what are their personal values? Do they prioritize cost? Do they prioritize quality? It all factors into this amalgamation of your competitive advantage, but more importantly, your target market. Where is your business operating? Who is it operating for? Why is it operating for those specific people? And how are you going to be able to provide a solution to their issues? And the number one most important thing about this is you can never, ever stop learning. People change on a day-to-day basis, right? More often than not, someone who's in your target market 4 years from that point may not be in your target market. So you need to make sure that you're consistently learning about it because this factors in heavily to what your brand does, and it factors into how you need to position yourself on the worldwide stage of the internet and search engines. So, what do you bring to the table, right? This is just one example. I took a nice little snapshot of Google Maps for florists, right? What are the florists that are around here? Well, when you're creating this competitive advantage, you take your local community, your products, that target market that is ebbing and flowing based on all of these different factors, and also your specialty. What sets you aside? Of course, this is really what a lot of people consider the competitive advantage is that specialty, but it's really a combination of those 4 points. And those create that competitive advantage that will set you apart. I mean, if you go to Manhattan, right, and you throw a nice little one of those Zillow outlines around the Manhattan area and look up pizza shops, how many do you think you're going to get? You're probably going to get a lot of pizza shops in Manhattan. Or if you go to Boston, or Cape Cod, let's say, and you search marinas or you search coffee shops. I know that in Cape Cod, we got a lot of breakfast places. If you search breakfast in Cape Cod, what sets you apart? What sets Chatham filling station aside from three fins? What's the difference? And really that comes down to that competitive advantage. You got to learn it. And that is how you are able to build the essence of what I call your site wireframe, right? I always joke that there's a reason they call websites websites. It's because when you're building your SEO strategy, you're creating a web that hopefully certain people come and fall into, and you're able to teach them about what you do, your products, your services, and hopefully hold them in a spot where you can consistently stay top of mind in a way. Obviously, we can use the spider metaphor, but it's really not like that. You want to make sure that overall you're really nurturing every single person that comes within your business in a way where not only are they getting value from you through your products and services or your resources, but you're getting value from them through understanding more about your target market. And this helps us build our keyword strategy. And the keyword strategy is something that even within the industry of SEO that is constantly changing, this has never really changed to a degree where we can't factor it into strategy. And the way that I summarize it is there's three different types of keywords. And really, when you're looking at it, it almost looks like a pyramid, right? At the very top, you have your core keyword. And your core keyword is really the major words that you want to be found for, right? So if we're talking about that florist, well, flower, florist, Cape Cod, right? If we're talking about, let's say, the Orpheum Theater in Chatham, the Orpheum Theater wants to be known as a movie theater, but they're also, their core keyword is the Orpheum Theater. If we're looking at Puritan clothing, it's very similar. Puritan clothing is that brand name, that core keyword, but on a grander scale, they're a clothing store, or they might be a luxury clothing store, right? So that typically, that core keyword, we're going to talk about positioning a little bit later. That is really dictated for your homepage. That is, you want to make sure you include that on your homepage. And we'll talk about that later. But then you have your fringe pages, right? Your fringe keywords. Every other page within your website, right? You have your homepage, you have your about page, your services page, or your products page, your contact page, your blog page. You could have other different types of resources. But overall, any type of service page or product page or even your about page, you want to make sure it has a fringe keyword. Now, a fringe keyword is just slightly different than your core keyword. Well, where we have flower in our core keyword, maybe you're selling roses, right? That's a product of yours. Well, then fringe, that rose is your fringe keyword. Or if you're selling bouquets, bouquet is your fringe keyword. Or Harwich is a little bit more distinct than Cape Cod. Maybe you have a store in Harwich, a store in Orleans, and a store in Wellfleet, right? Well, then they need to be separated in a way, and maybe they each have a page on your website. Uh, you want to make sure that they have a fringe keyword that is going to allow them to be seen on the search engine. So we go one level down. We have our core keyword that's pretty vague. It encapsulates the essence of the business in a way where you're showcasing the competitive advantage in a way or the type of business in general. And then right underneath that, you have your fringe keywords, which are, okay, what are the services? What are the products? What's really that about keyword that describes a little bit more specifically what that business does? And then finally, underneath core and fringe, you have your niche keywords. And your niche keywords are the money makers, right? These are the ones that SEO hasn't changed a whole lot. Overall, you need to prioritize ROI. You want to draw people into your website that are going to be fascinated with the value you can provide, either their business or their own life, and you need to sell them in a way that's going to do that. The keywords that are really going to drive this traffic on the search engine are your niche keywords. A lot of times, if someone looks up movie theater near me, hopefully they'll find your homepage or an about page or something like that. But it's a pretty competitive world out there. You're fighting with some of the big dogs, right? Maybe Showcase Cinemas or um, Blackstone. It really depends on what industry you're in. If you're a hardware store, you're competing with Ace Hardware. If you're even a clothing store, you're competing with Amazon. So what differentiates you? What's your competitive advantage? Well, those are your core keywords, right? keywords that are related to your industry, and the keywords that you chose as your core and your fringe. So for instance, a niche keyword could be a Valentine's Day rose, right? Maybe you have a specific promotion that you're trying to sell roses on Valentine's Day. Well, we're going to talk a little bit later about long tail versus short tail keywords. The longer that keyword is, the easier it is. You're going to rank for it. And again, that doesn't go for every single keyword, but a lot of times that's the rule of thumb. Wedding bouquet is another example. And then finally, Harwich flower delivery. It's just a few different examples. So keywords provide that focus of brand positioning, right? So keep your core keywords in mind with everything you do. That's really the overarching aspect. Your elevator pitch to the world is your core keyword. But underneath that, your fringe keywords, use it to build your website, like we talked about in those customer facing campaigns, your service pages, your product pages. And then your niche keywords, you want to use them to create your content, your products, and your blog. So within your, and one thing that I should mention, when I'm talking about a service page or a product page, I'm talking about the overarching array of all of your products and services. That deserves a fringe keyword. When we're talking about a product page in general, you probably want to use a core keyword because that's going to allow that product to rank a lot easier. So let's talk about the building blocks of the search engine facing website, right? Within your website, on your page, you have headers or headings, you have your body text, and you also have any type of subtitles or subheadings within there, right? But in order to get to that page, similar to a subject line in an email, you need a meta title, a meta description, and a URL slug. So this is just one example way back in the day from my website. Within the URL slug, the keyword that I chose for this particular page, once again, this is a service page. It's a fringe keyword, was SEO services. My meta title, I included that keyword again within that. In the URL, of course, you have SEO services, but underneath that, small business SEO services, and then within the meta description, maximum 155 characters, I tried to fit that keyword in once more. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to fit in SEO services, so what I did is I put in SEO or search engine optimization. This is pretty early. This was actually before the algorithm changed a whole lot, but a lot of those principles still stay the same today. Before we move on, do we have any questions? I'm actually going to move this over here. Do we have any questions? No?
There's one, Matt, on the slide deck. Will the slide deck be sent out after the class? So the video will be available. This is all being taped, and the video will be available after the webinar is completed, and you'll be emailed a link.
Absolutely. Awesome. So hopping back in. Sorry, I just needed to switch that screen here. Okay. So earlier we talked about, let's jump right down here. Earlier we talked about really the overarching aspect of spinning your website, right? So let's just once again unpack the platform that this kind of works on, right? Say for instance, you have Squarespace, you have Wix, WordPress, Webflow, Constant Contact, MailChimp, Google Sites. Actually, I think that's deprecated at this point. Maybe you built your website on JavaScript. It doesn't matter. Every single one of these providers is great. And overarching premise of a web builder is one of accessibility. How easy is it for you specifically to build your website? That is the most important thing because at the end of the day, for SEO in general, one of the biggest and most important aspects to benefiting your website is consistently using it. How active is that website? a lot of times we go into really what encapsulates a solid optimized website on a search engine. Well, yeah, you can have the best keywords, you can have the best positioning, all this type of stuff. But as long as you're using your website, you're updating content on some of your main pages, maybe your homepage gets refreshed every once in a while, maybe you're writing blogs, maybe you're adding new products, maybe you're posting newsletters from your newsletter onto your site. It doesn't matter. As long as you are optimizing your site consistently, and by optimizing, I literally just mean going in and updating stuff, Google is going to take that into consideration when you're building your website. However, outside of your website, you also have a lot of other search engines to consider, right? I will not sit here and tell you that I am uh, a search or a social media expert. I am not. Um, I try my best to stay consistent with social media. And once again, going back to what we just said, that's an important piece of the pie as well on social media. But another thing that you can absolutely do is create some type of optimization within your social media. The first and most important tip that I would say is don't spread yourself too thin, right? If you have your website on one end and then you're operating 4 or 5 different social medias, you're trying to stay up to date on TikTok, you're trying to post Instagram and Facebook Reels, you have a Pinterest board, you're over here on LinkedIn, making sure that you're contributing to articles. It's all well and good, but if you're not able to stay consistent with your website optimization and you're not able to actually stay up to date with your social media, then you're actually doing yourself a disservice, right? Stuff is falling off by the wayside. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I personally, I do this all the time, is I get so caught up in a project, I forget to update my website or I don't post a blog or what have you, and it costs you. So don't spread yourself too thin. The keywords as hashtags is actually an interesting one. I'd say that this one it completely depends on the platform. Like if we're talking about Instagram, Instagram has kind of stepped away from hashtags in a way. Uh, and once again, you might have a different experience than I do, but typically when I'm saying use keywords as hashtags, I'm actually going to pivot that statement and say use keywords in your bios. Use keywords wherever you're explaining what your company does. So, for instance, if I'm writing an Instagram description for a company that is a pet groomer in Harwich, Mass, right? And if that's you, congrats. I mean, here's a perfect example for you. Um, if you are a pet groomer in Harwich, Massachusetts, if you're writing an Instagram description, you probably want to somehow include pet groomer or pet services or something like that within your Instagram bio. Um, but another thing to mention is, and going down to this third one, is maintain your brand and content you create. One thing that's quickly developing, and we're seeing it a lot from over the past 5, 10 years, is that personal brands are as big as ever. I mean, you look at a lot of modern day companies, and a lot of people don't see the company, they see the CEO, they see the people that are running the companies, or they see the influencers that are driving the companies. Um, a lot of times you can create content within your brand and you can grow it that way. And I would say within your website, that's the only way to create content is with your brand at your back. Um, but you need to make sure that you maintain that tone of voice, that conversationality. Do not use AI. If you do use AI, make sure to go ahead and update it and humanize it in a way. Um, you may get penalized. I am not going to say it's 100% of the time you're going to get penalized. You can definitely take some risks if you want. But I would recommend against it. Just make sure that overall you are writing the blogs and the content that you as a brand and as a person behind the brand believe in, that are going to be valuable to the people that are actually going to use your services and products. And also, if running a corporate Instagram or I shouldn't say corporate, a company Instagram or a company Facebook or a company YouTube doesn't sound fun. Instead, what you may want to do is jump on a social media as yourself. Go on X, go on YouTube, go on LinkedIn as yourself, and try to create thought leadership in that particular competitive advantage in your target market, in your niche, because that plays into the SEO within your website a whole lot. If you understand a specific type of expertise and you're able to share that, you are inherently connected with the brand that you are running, whether you are a manager of the business, whether you're the founder of the business, or whether you are even just an employee. It goes a long way to see within the business who is connected to that business and what are they really trying to teach and what do they have an expertise in. It's almost like a case study in a way. Um, Also generate engagement that is on brand. And this goes not only for social media. I know I have a big header right there that says social media. It really comes down to the entire portfolio, right? A lot of businesses in Cape Cod, we are foot traffic based businesses. We hope people walk in the front door, and that's totally fine. But when they walk through that front door, and there should be no difference between the people that do walk through the front door and the people that walk through the front door of your website. They should be treated the same with the same type of engagements, the same type of experience. That user experience right now is huge within SEO. Well, are people staying on your site? Are people clicking things? Are they traversing around your content? Are they trying to learn more about your business? And really that aspect, it's the same as watching someone walk through your store, pick up a t-shirt, pick up a gift and looking at the gift. What are you going to do most likely, right? You're going to walk up to them and say, "Hey, do you find everything that you wanted to see? Do you like that shirt? Do you like that gift? How come? Well, what's important about that to you?" Or you may want to not dive that deep, but that same concept goes for your website, right? Why are they engaged with the stuff that they're engaged in? And also, how can you use that information to tailor your target market, like we talked about, so that the future more people like that person are engaged with the content that you're producing, the products you're producing, and the services that you're actually providing. And then finally, consistency is everything, right? Goes back to what we said. Overall, the framework of your site is important. But the most important thing that you can be doing for your SEO, bar none, is staying consistent, consistently adding to your website, even if it's just updating pages, and just making sure that overall your website stays active. Change your hours consistently. Make sure that if you're setting up new products, that you have product pages for them. If there's a service that's only available in the summer season or the winter season, make sure you note that on the product page. All that stuff really plays a huge part in when Google is considering where they're going to put you within the search engine, right?
Hey, Matt, a few
Yes,
questions. Um,
absolutely.
I missed one from the last question session. On the previous slide, what did HH and LL mean?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's actually jump back there real quick. So, within that keyword slide, when we were talking about the different types of keywords, the core, the fringe, and the niche, right? HH, HL, or actually, fringe doesn't have one, and LL. Um, HH means high volume, high competition. This is definitely something a little bit more in depth that maybe down the road we talk in a second part uh, in terms of SEO. But when you're looking at keywords, right, you're looking at a massive pot of potential, but other people are looking at that same pot as you, right? And they're picking out opportunities for their own business. Uh, a lot of times when you're considering a keyword, there's a few factors that go into what keyword makes the most sense, right? And one we actually didn't talk about that I think is something that we should talk about is what's known as intent. Intent is really the deciding factor on where your content is going to be. And there's four different types of intent, right? First, you have navigational intent. Navigational intent specifically is people, when they are searching a keyword, they're trying to get to a specific place. So if someone types in Audi, they're probably trying to go to the Audi website. If someone types in Disney, they're probably trying to either go to Disney Plus or the Disney website, most often Disney Plus. So that navigational keyword is showcasing that one-to-one traffic. But then you have the three others. Number one is informational. Someone's trying to learn something new. You have transactional, which someone is trying to purchase a product. And finally, you have your commercial. And your commercial is someone is trying to hire someone to do a particular service. And those three intents factor into each one of your keywords, but so does the volume, the monthly volume, as well as the keyword difficulty. So when you see HH and LL here, what that means is it has high volume, but it also has high keyword difficulty. So flower, for instance, I'd say could potentially be a transactional keyword because you're trying to purchase a flower, or it could be an informational keyword that someone's trying to learn more about what flower that is. Florist is probably a commercial keyword, right? Because you're trying to hire a florist, or you're trying to pay for services provided by the florist, or maybe you're just trying to buy flowers. It could be transactional as well. And Cape Cod is most likely an informational. But each one of those keywords have similarities. They are all high competition keywords. You are competing, if you're trying to rank for Cape Cod, you're competing with Cape Cod in general, the state of Massachusetts, the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, Cape Cod and the islands. Um, there's a lot that you're competing with. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's going to kind of stifle any type of step in the right direction that you may be feeling like you're making. And then that high volume, actually, jumping over to the niche, you have low keyword difficulty, but also low volume, right? It's probably not a whole lot of other people that are trying to rank for that, not a whole lot of other competition, but at the same time, it's probably because there's not a whole lot of volume. So that's why, again, the niche is really that bread and butter. Those are going to be possible for you to rank for fairly easily, but at the same time, there's not going to be a whole lot of people that are searching that. But if you create a decent amount of content, created a decent amount of products over time, it's going to pay off because that traffic does add up and you're actually ranking for it. So you're going to be able to actually make those waves. Um,
Couple
Jumping
more,
forward. Oh, yes, absolutely.
sorry.
No
So
worries.
last round you had, mentioned different website builders. What about GoDaddy?
Yeah, I get this question every single time we do this. Overall, every website builder is good in their own way. Some are better than others at certain things. GoDaddy is fine. Um, what I always prioritize, and a lot of SEO technicians disagree with me wholeheartedly. A lot of them tell me either to have it built in like uh, JavaScript or build a WordPress site, right? Those are typically, usually, I'd say like Webflow and WordPress right now are the SEO technician's best friend because they are the most customizable. However, I disagree personally. I think that overall, the most important thing to any website builder is the accessibility. How easy is it for you to make changes? So if your business is using Wix or GoDaddy or Squarespace, like something very simple, it's simple in the grand scheme, right? They're all difficult. But if you're using something like that, it's actually going to pay off because you're going to be more consistent than using a WordPress and having to deal with a Gutenberg theme or Beaver Builder and working with Yoast. Like there's a lot of other layers to that. Anything
Um,
else?
yep. So got a couple, same question.
Yeah.
Last slide you had in bullet two, 3C, 3F, S5N.
Yeah, I'm actually going to say you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that at all. That's kind of an old setup there. Right now, that was a breakdown of three core, three fringe, and then five niche within your hashtags. That was like a little while ago in terms of the strategy on hashtags. But more and more social media are kind of weeding out hashtags in a way. I mean, LinkedIn still uses them pretty heavily. YouTube doesn't use tags anymore. Instagram really doesn't lean on hashtags anymore. There's not a whole lot of social media that really dives into the hashtag side of things. They may help. I'm not saying they don't, but overall, when you're looking into your social media, the most important thing that you can do is just make sure your bio is optimized with the keywords that make sense for you.
One last question. How many pages is too many? I could go on and add so many pages to my website. How in depth should it get?
That's such a good question. And I think that that's really an all-encompassing question because I keep saying stay consistent, create content, but at the end of the day, like that isn't sustainable. Like there's going to come time, especially for us, for the seasonal businesses, that gets tough in June, July, and August, right? Um, so you don't have to go crazy with your content. One blog or one new product here and there every once in a while is great, but you don't have to keep adding pages. Just update the pages that you currently have, fix any issues. There's some really solid tools out there, such as like a site speed, where you can go ahead and check how fast your site's loading. That's a little bit more technical, but there's also free SEO tools like SEMrush, SpyFu, Ahrefs, Moz that can do just a basic domain check for you. And then that'll tell you if there's any changes you may need to make to your pages. I take every single one of them with a grain of salt because not every single one of them, there's not a single one that is 100% right 100% of the time. Um, so really just focus on updating the pages that you have, adding blogs where necessary, and if you are adding pages for products or blogs, focus on adding pages that are surrounding a niche keyword because that's actually going to be a good spend, right? A good ROI. It's going to drive the traffic.
One last one. Just
Mhm.
came. Is updating your template in WordPress really needed to attract new audience?
Updating your template in WordPress. Say that one more time, Mike. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Is updating your template in WordPress really needed to attract a new audience?
That's a great question too. And once again, that's a layer that's tough, right? Is sometimes you want to refresh your site, um, but how much is too much? It goes back to what we just mentioned in seasonal businesses, whether you're operating year round or whether you're operating within a specific season, um, a full theme change is a ton of work. Unless you have a really great internal or freelance web designer to help you, you really don't need to do that like pretty consistently. You can do that every other year, maybe like every 4 years, but it's always good to have a good refresher on your site due to the fact that it's going to help showcase to new users that you're updating your site. Um, if you like a theme and you want to change, I definitely reach out to Score. We have some great people that might be able to help you go through that process, especially with WordPress, which is a little bit more difficult than something like Squarespace. But yeah, you don't need to do anything major consistently. Just small changes here and there. Stay active. Anything else?
No.
Awesome. And speaking of staying active, I think that that's a great segue into building a community, right? Because building a community inherently is going to benefit your business because number one, referrals and people that stay close to your business and see value are consistently going to return business, uh, or share referrals, and grow the community even further outside of your own power. But it also assists with actually building your site's authority score. And I'm not going to get into that today. It's a whole can of worms. Um, but a few very important aspects to growing this expertise that your website is conveying on a global scale on the search engine are these four things right here. Number one, Google My Business. Um, Google My Business. Right now, Google has a monopoly on a lot of things, and one of those, again, there's Bing Places, there's other variations of this, there's the Yellow Pages, but Google My Business is what is known as an SERP rich snippet, right? It's not a rich snippet. I'm sorry. It's basically an SERP is a search engine rankings page. It's basically a block within that search engine that is dedicated to a specific listing. And that's Google My Business. So if you go to Manhattan, like we've talked about, and you type in pizza near me, what's gonna come up? Is it the definition of pizza gonna come up? No way. There's gonna be all these pizza shops all over the place. They're gonna pop up, and you're gonna be able to pick the one that you want based on reviews, pick it based on description, the menu, all that type of stuff, and then go. If you are a brick and mortar store, or if you have some type of hybrid work environment where you're going to your clients, like if you're a landscaper and you're going to different clients, um, whether you have that hybrid and you don't work at a specific place um, to actually do the job, but you have some type of brick and mortar shop. In general, if you have a brick and mortar shop or if you have a location, set up a Google My Business. It's the most important thing you can do. Local SEO is everything nowadays. It's the most important thing in a lot of ways. Uh, so Google My Business is going to go a long way for that placement. All you have to do is go to Google My Business. They're actually called Google Business Profiles now. Type in Google Business Profile, set the whole thing up. It's a pain in the butt. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's going to have you take like this crazy video of showcasing that you actually own the property, and then it's going to give you a listing. It's very important. If you already have one, stay consistent with it as well. My two takeaways with that consistency, right? Your website, you have to stay consistent with. Your Google My Business, it's recommended you stay consistent with. It's just good to have that Google My Business listing that exists. The other three kind of fit into the same bucket, right? Community engagement, a newsletter, email marketing, and special promotions. These are three different ways to consistently keep people coming back and to stay top of mind. Community engagement, work with smaller businesses or other businesses within your area to create some type of bundle deal, packaged promotion, something like that, that you guys are both going to be able to benefit off of the traffic of each other's website. It's almost like a brand partnership on Instagram where you always see like two brands collabing on something, like it's a collaboration. Do that on a small scale. Like talk to if say for instance you're um, a surf shop and you have a friend who runs a food truck. Maybe you have some type of championship and you have the food truck come down. It's just an example. I know Cape Cod, I don't know if you have a ton of great places for that. There's some great waves down here, but overall, it's just an example there. Email marketing, same thing. You don't have to send a newsletter. You don't have to build a MailChimp template. Every once in a while, if you want to jump into an email marketing tool, and I do recommend using an email marketing tool like MailChimp or Constant Contact or Aweber, one of those, but just send out a quick white page text. Hey, here's something that you may want to know about this particular topic. Just wanted to keep you notified. I know a landscaper who does hardscaping, and all he does is send out just basic tips on how people can protect their investment in hardscaping. That's a perfect way to stay top of mind. And what that's going to do is it's going to drive more traffic in on a consistent basis, and that's going to prop up your website. And special promotions, same thing. Every once in a while, a little special promotion is going to go a long way to drive potentially returning customers back into your website and actually reinvigorate that traffic. Your traffic on your website directly plays a part in your overall rankings, right? The more traffic you have for specific keywords, the more Google is going to show you for those keywords. And
Quick question, Matt.
yes, absolutely.
Is Google My Business only an option for physical storefronts?
That's a really, really good question, and it's tough to answer, right? I mean, for me, I'm a fully remote business. I mean, I have a place where I do work down in Cape Cod. Um, and if you have a place that's fully remote, it's very difficult to get a Google My Business. You can still get one, but it's not going to apply the same way. Uh, in a way, it might not even show up on the rankings that you want. If you have some type of business you can partner with to even just get a mailbox, you can't use PO boxes. But if you can get a location and partner with someone like that, then you can get a Google My Business pretty easily. But overall, if you're remote, it's very difficult. I'd still recommend setting it up just in case, but it may not have the same type of pull as the pizza shop down the street or the liquor store across the street. Anything else?
No, you're good.
Awesome. Want to close it out with this real quick. Onwards. It was a lot. I know I really I talked about a whole lot. I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. But in case that there's just a little too much, here's three things that you should absolutely take away from this. Use your business as a microphone and not a megaphone. You don't have to reach everyone. You just have to reach the right people at the right time. One of the easiest ways to do this is to just make sure that you're positioned well on your website. Choose the correct keywords and make sure that they're implemented in a way that's going to actually do that within your URL, within your meta title and your meta description at the bare minimum. Never ever stop learning and gathering information about your target market. This is the most important thing you can do. SEO, the industry changes every single day. I mean, I have algorithm notifications coming in at all times. It's the same thing with any industry. And especially with AI coming, we are going to face a completely different world. So, one of the best things that you can do to prepare for that is to consistently gather information and learn new information about your target market and pivot your business and pivot your SEO strategy. And speaking of that, don't be afraid to change that brand. If you notice something different in your target market's changing, change your brand in a way that's going to really maintain that organic feel so that it's not too forced. I would look at there's been some modern brand changes that have not worked out very well. Take notes from them and apply it to your own business and just make sure that it resonates with your target market. Real quick, I know we got 1 minute left. AI on search still gathers information from your websites, right? It's not going to actually, some of them crawl your websites. There's different toggles that you can actually turn off within your website. But Gemini for Google is not taking information from Gemini and delivering information to someone within the search engine. It's taking it from actual people's websites. Google would be silly not to use their multi-billion-dollar search engine to really train their AI. So one of the best things that you can do to stay ahead, and this is something that I'm consistently doing with the SEO work that I do, is write content that might actually benefit LLMs as well as humans. But always prioritize the human, because who is pushing the button to actually work with you, right? You can get all the AI placements you want, but if people get to your site and it's just bad content and they don't learn anything and there's no value to it, there's no reason to do that in the first place, and the traffic is just useless. Don't be afraid of AI. It's here to help you in a lot of ways until it's not, and take advantage of it. Just do what we talked about today, and you will.
Couple quick questions, Matt. You
Yeah,
want 'em?
let's do it.
You mentioned staying consistent with Google Business Profile. Is that ensuring the info is the same between the business listing and the website, or consistently adding, updating content?
Yeah, that's a great question. Consistently adding and updating content is really what I meant, but that NAP consistency is very important. The name, the address, and the phone number. Just make sure that all those fields are equal on every listing of your business. I probably even fall through the cracks on that one as well. I got to look at that myself.
Uh, Last question, is Google My Business relevant for SaaS type of platforms?
Yeah,
And
if you're dealing with like a software as a service platform, if you have an actual location, 100%. If you have a location, 100%. It's not going to deliver the customers like your neighborhood hardware store, your neighborhood coffee shop, but it's still good to be able to show up if someone's looking for the services you provide.
yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you hosting, and thanks so much for again, sorry for the confusion early on. Thank you guys for taking some minutes out of your day. I know 11 o'clock a.m. is kind of a a good time to hop on these calls, but it's even better time to actually run your business. So thanks again for your time today, and hope you learned something.
Thank you, everyone. Oof.
There we go.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. See ya.